Hello all, welcome to this AutoCAD training session for designers. In this particular session, we'll be looking at AutoCAD from the beginner's level to an advanced level. Application of AutoCAD cuts across various disciplines, whether you are a civil engineer, an architect, a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, whatsoever field of engineering that you have, AutoCAD is essential. Technical drawing using bold and T-square is the fundamental of AutoCAD, but as an engineer, you are not expected to present your drawing using paper and biro or using paper and pen. You are supposed to be able to draw a professional drawing. So AutoCAD is a tool you can use to achieve this. So this session, once again, we'll be looking at AutoCAD right from the fundamentals. So we hope at the end of this session, you should be able to become an expert designer with AutoCAD for you. AutoCAD still remains the best tool for your 2D drawing. At the end of this session, you will have enough information and tool to be able to achieve this particular exercise. So let's get started. Our first task in learning AutoCAD is to understand the AutoCAD interface. Understanding the arrangement of the interface will enable you to know where to navigate to in order to achieve your desired results. In learning the interface, at the top, horizontally, you have your application toolbar. On the application toolbar, you can see some set of tools by your left. At the middle, you can see Autodesk AutoCAD 2023 because I'm using 2023 version. Then you can see the name of my drawing sheet. By default, it gives it drawing.dwg. So once I save this particular drawing sheet, then you have a drawing name.dwg. So this horizontal bar is called application toolbar. Below the application toolbar, you have your menus. You have home menu, insert, annotate, parametric view. You have various menus in AutoCAD. The home is the most important. So make sure you click on the home menu. Now, when you are on the home menu, you will see that you have some lot of tools, but the tools are grouped into categories called panels. So you have your draw panel tools, you have your modify panel tools, annotation panel tools, layer panel tools, and so on. So if you observe closely, you will see that there is a vertical line, a faint vertical line separating draw panel from modify panel from annotation panel. When you look at it closely, you see that there is a vertical tool separating these panels. So the way your menus are arranged, your menus are subdivided into panels. So home menu is subdivided into draw panel, modifying panel, annotation panel, layer panel, and so on. In learning AutoCAD, irrespective of your discipline, most of your tasks will be on the draw and modify panel. So 70% of your knowledge of AutoCAD lies in how well you can use your draw and your modify panel. So we'll be learning how to use our drawing tools and modifying tools in AutoCAD. Then on my screen, you can see I have a white screen. By default, when you install your AutoCAD, you always have a black screen. But AutoCAD has a customized menu to learn for you to be able to change your screen. We will not be going into that in this particular video. So I have a white screen. You probably would have a black screen. Then at the bottom left of my screen, you can see I have my X and Y. The X and Y is called UCS, User Coordinate System. For 2D, we have XY. For 3D, we have XYZ. Now, one other information about my screen. Our drawing sheet is very large. It can accommodate any drawing. It can accommodate a drawing as small as 1 centimeter and another drawing as big as 100 or 10,000 centimeters, or probably in inches or in millimeter, whichever your unit is. Your drawing can take any drawing of any size. Now, below your UCS, you have this very important vertical bar called the command line. This command line is very important. The work of this command line is to enable you to use your tools, whatever tools you are using. It's going to give you instruction on how to use the tool. So as a beginner, you need to be observing the command line for instruction, for information on how to use the tools. We'll be learning, we'll be learning how to, we'll be taking a few minutes to learn how to use the command line appropriately. Below the command line, you can see we have some few tabs, the model tab and the layout tab. So you can create more layout tab by pressing this plus button over here. So now when you go back to your model tab is also called your drawing space. Your layout tab is your printing space, even though you can also print on your model. By the way, in AutoCAD, printing is called plotting. So if you want to print, it's called plotting. So you might find me using the word plot instead of print. Okay. All right. So below the model and layout, we have, okay, on the same horizontal bar, we have by the right, we have our drawing aid. Aid as in AID, help. The work of the drawing aid is to help us to achieve accuracy in our drawing. We want to draw a very straight vertical line, use the appropriate drawing aid. You want to pick a point accurately, use your object snap in your drawing aid. So we will also be learning later on what each icon of the drawing aid, what they can help us to do. So with this, we can start working with AutoCAD. Now we want to start learning our tools, our drawing tools and modifying tools. So going to the drawing tools, we have line. So when I click on line, check your command line. Your command line says specify first point. Now it's very important for you to understand what instruction you have on the command line. So specify first point, so you can go ahead to your screen and pick your first point. Now, when I pick my first point, it's now saying specify next point. So by following the instruction on the command line, I can go ahead and continue to pick my next point. So depending on the drawing you are trying to achieve, you can keep on picking your points. If you observe very well on the command line, you have a bracket, a square bracket. Inside the square bracket, you have close, you have undo. Now, the interpretation of this is that AutoCAD has given us three different methods or three different instructions on what to do. So you have three instructions. One instruction is outside, specify next point. This instruction is your default instruction. Then inside the bracket, you have two instructions, which are your alternative instruction. So for the alternative instruction, we have close and undo. Altogether, we have three instructions, one outside, two in the bracket. The one outside is your default. The two inside are your alternative instruction. Understanding this will help you to know how to use other tools in AutoCAD. So to activate your alternative instruction, you are going to click on close to activate close. And when I click on close, you can see the last point snaps or joins with the first point, thereby closing the drawing. I pick on line again, specify first point. Now, if I choose the undo option, so what undo does is it steps back my previous points. It steps back. Probably I've made an error. I can step it back and redraw. So undo. So if you click on close now, so close joins the last to the first. I'm going to delete this drawing and start all over again. So just to learn more about the command line, I'm going to be repeating this. So line again, specify first point, specify next point. So I'm following the default instruction, which is specify next point. So to choose the alternative instruction close, I'll click on close. To choose the alternative instruction undo, I'll click on undo. So you can click on undo as many times as you want. Okay, with this, I believe we understand how our command line works. So generally, we have one default option. We always have one default option on our command line. but we can have as many alternative options. So you can always click on the particular option from your alternative to decide on what you want to pick. Depending on the version of AutoCAD that you are using, in some older versions of AutoCAD, you will not be able to click. So all you need to do in the old versions of AutoCAD is to type what is in capital letter. For close, we have C as capital. For undo, you have U as capital letter, in capital letter. So now in old versions of AutoCAD, to choose close, instead of clicking on close, I will have to type C on my keyboard and press enter on my keyboard to close. This is how AutoCAD is being used in old versions from 2010 downwards, if I'm right, 2010. Okay, or probably 2012 downwards. 2012 downwards version of AutoCAD, you might not be able to click, but you are going to use what is in capital letter to activate the alternative options. For undo, undo is U is in capital letter. Then I'm going to type U on my keyboard, enter to activate undo option. So this is the method by which we work in old versions of AutoCAD. But newer versions, you don't have to type what is a capital letter, but you go ahead and click the options to activate it. All right, now we have learnt our line. Now in AutoCAD, we have three types of line. We have another type of line called polyline. Polyline. Now you can see polyline can do what line can do, but it can, in addition to that, you can also use it to draw an arc. Looking at the options for polyline, we have one default, which is specify next point, one default instruction, and that is what I'm doing right now. I'm specifying next point, which is my default instruction. Then for the alternative in brackets, we have arc, close, half width, length, undo width options. So we have other instructions. So to choose arc, I will click on arc. By clicking on arc, I've been able to switch from line to arc. If I want to switch back to line, check your instruction. I have an instruction for line, so I can switch back to line. So you will observe that with your polyline, you cannot just only draw line, but you can draw line and arc. You can easily switch from line to arc. So if you want to close, we have a close option. Now you see that CL is in capital letter here. So if I want to use my keyboard to activate close, I'm not going to use C. I'm going to be using CL because now here you can observe that CL is in capital letter. So CL on my keyboard, enter to close. And what close does is it joins last point to first point. So I'll be using the polyline again. So there are two differences between using a line and using polyline. Two differences between using a line and using a polyline. One difference is that with a line, you have a single segment. A line gives you a single segment. Okay, this is what I mean. So I've made this drawing using line. Now I'm drawing this using polyline. Visually, there is really no difference between these two. In terms of, it's like you can't really differentiate whether I use a line or a polyline. But one major difference between a line and polyline is that with a polyline, you can draw line and arc. Another difference is in selection. In line, we have individual segments, whereas in polyline, the whole of this is one segment. So with line, we have individual segments, whereas with polyline, it's just one segment. So whatsoever you draw using the polyline is just one single segment. Now let me switch to arc. I want to switch back to line. I'm using polyline right now. So now I want to close. Now, when you want to select this, the whole of this is one single segment. That is another difference between line and polyline. So next tool we'll be looking at is circle. Circle. So now for circle, you will observe there's an arrow below circle. Now the arrow shows that there are different methods of drawing circle. We have different methods. We have the center radius method. We have the center diameter method, 2 point method, 3 points, tangents, and tangents method of drawing circle. So you can either use any of this circle. What determines what method you are going to use depends on what you are drawing. If you are drawing sketch, if you are making a sketch, you might want to go with the first option, which is the center radius option, because you are working with a sketch. You don't have a dimension. But if you are working with dimension, you would want to consider the other options available and what the particular one you are going to use depending on the dimension you are given. For instance, you have a drawing in where you are given the diameter value or the radius value, so you can use any of this, or probably you have 3 points, or you have tangent radius on the dimension. So mostly, if you are working with sketch, use the first one. If you are working with dimension, then you can use any. Your dimension is going to determine which particular one you are going to use. So now we are going to be using this first one because we are only sketching. So specify the center point for circle, then specify radius. So because we are sketching, we don't have any particular radius in mind. I'll just pick any points to draw the circle. But if I'm working with dimension, my dimension will give me the information of the radius or the diameter for me to use. So it's easy to draw my circle, center point, and radius. So I can always pick my center points anywhere I want. Then the radius, I'll just pick graphically because I don't have a dimension. But if I have a dimension, I might want to type in the dimension. For instance, I can say radius 100. So here I've been able to draw a circle of radius of 100. By the way, in this particular exercise, we'll only be looking at sketches. On later sessions, we'll be looking at how to work with dimension. It's good we understand how to work with sketch, understand our tools first using sketches. Then later on, once we understand our tools, then we can go ahead and learn how to work with dimension. So our focus will be on how to work with sketch. So next, we'll be looking at arc. How do we draw arc in AutoCAD? Similarly to circle, your arc has an arrow. So the arrow indicates that there are different methods of using arc. The 3 point method is the default method. Then these other methods are good for dimension. If you are working with dimension, your dimension given will determine what particular method for you to use here. But because we are working on sketch, we'll focus on the 3 point method. With the 3 point method, specify start point of arc, where you want your arc to start from. Specify second point of arc. Second point is where you want your arc to pass through. Then specify end point of arc, where you want your arc to terminate. With this information, you can draw arc of your choice. Once again, start point depending on your choice, second point based on your choice, third point where you want your arc to terminate. Okay, I'm going to repeat it again. Start point, second point, end point. So with this knowledge, you can easily draw an arc to suit your need to sketch. Okay, I'll delete this. So the last drawing tool we'll be learning here is rectangle. So we are taking a look at some of our drawing tools, not all of them, then a few modifying tools too, in order to help us to achieve our exercise for today. A rectangle has 4 corners. In AutoCAD, to draw a rectangle, you need 2 diagonal corners. So I click on rectangle again, I pick a corner here, then I move diagonally to pick the other corner. So you only need 2 points to draw a rectangle to sketch in AutoCAD. 2 diagonal points. Rectangle, pick the first diagonal point, then move diagonally to pick the other diagonal point. Our focus is on sketch once again. So for a practice, you can easily make use of your rectangle to sketch. Now, let's take a quick revision of the 5 drawing tools that we have learned to draw with sketch. The first is line, pick points, depending on what you want to achieve. Then to terminate your line, press escape on your keyboard. So escape on the keyboard helps you to terminate your tool. So once you press escape on your keyboard, you will see your command line will clear off. So again, I'm going to draw polyline. I'm going to switch to arc. I'm going to switch back to line. So to terminate the polyline, I will press escape on my keyboard to terminate. Next, I'm going to draw circle, center point, then radius of the circle. So I'm going to draw a few circles, a way of revising the few tools that we have learned. Then next, I'm going to draw arc, start point of the arc, second point, end point. So this is just a revision of our tools. Remember, this is a training for AutoCAD for beginners. So if you have a bit of expertise knowledge on AutoCAD, you can check other videos to learn new things in AutoCAD. Then lastly, rectangle, 2 diagonal points. All right, good. So we have been able to revise our 5 tools. Before we move to our modifying tool, let's quickly learn how to draw vertical and horizontal lines in AutoCAD. To draw vertical and horizontal line in AutoCAD, you need to activate your auto mode. Auto mode can be found on your drawing aid. So when you go to your drawing aid, you can see the sign that looks like hell, like letter L. That is your auto mode. So by activating the auto mode, your line will be constrained just vertically and horizontally. Auto for orthogonal. So with my auto, my drawing has been constrained to only vertical and horizontal. So I will delete this. Okay, line again. So just in case you want to draw an inclined line, then you can put off your auto mode. So at any point in time, you can go back and activate your auto mode. So your auto mode constrain your line to vertical or horizontal. So you can give this a try to understand how it works. So once you are done, press escape on your keyboard to terminate your line tool. So with the help of your auto mode is very important. With the help of your auto mode, as it says drawing aid, your auto mode is on the drawing aid. And the drawing aid helps you to achieve your accuracy. So anytime you want to draw a vertical or horizontal line, make sure you activate your auto mode for that. Next, we are going to be moving to the modifying tools, the modify panel. So for the modify panel, we have move, we have copy, we have rotate, and some other tools. So now when I click on move, it says select object. Select object. Now, what do we refer to as object in AutoCAD? Object is the general name for whatsoever you draw. Whether you draw a rectangle, you draw a circle, you draw a line, general name for them is object. So presently on my screen, I have 4 objects. So my modifying is telling me to select objects. All of my modifying tool will require me to use all of my modifying tool. I'll be required to select objects. So we need to understand how to select objects properly in AutoCAD. There are 3 methods of selecting objects in AutoCAD. We have individual method. So for the individual method, you will select the objects one after the other. That's individual. So now I've selected the 4 objects. I'm going to do that again. Individual method of selection. Another method of selecting objects is the green box. For the green box, you click, then you click toward from your right, then you move towards the left. The green box is another method of selection. I'll click from the right to the left. For the green box is going to select as many objects that it can touch. So far it is touching the object, it's going to select it. So now I can select the entire 4 objects at once. So the green box is a group method of selection. Another method is the blue box. The blue box is clicking from left to right. For the blue box, it's going to select objects that is completely covered in the box. Completely covered. So right now I have just the line and rectangle completely covered. So it's only line and rectangle that will be selected. So the blue box is also a group method of selection. But the difference between green box and blue box is number 1, direction. Direction is number 1 difference. So you click from left to right is blue, from right to left is green. So direction is number 1 difference. The number 2 difference is the way they select. The blue box is only going to select objects completely covered in the box, while the green box selects objects that it can touch. The blue box is going to select objects completely covered in the box. That's the difference between the blue box and the green box. So now I believe we all understand the 3 methods of selection: the individual method of selection, the green box, and the blue box. Okay, so now I press escape to deselect. Escape to deselect. All right, now with this knowledge, we can start using our modifying tools. So before I use the modifying tools, I would like to draw a few objects. So let me draw an arrow. An arrow that has a head and a tail. Then close. Okay, all right. Now I have this arrow. So now I want to learn our modifying tool. The first object we're going to be learning is move. So when I click on move, I'm asked to select objects. So I'm going to select the entire arrow using my green box. Then once I'm done selecting, press enter on your keyboard. You can press enter or spacebar. In AutoCAD, enter and spacebar perform the same function, which means I'm done with my selection or receive my input, as the case may be. Now I'm going to press enter after selecting objects so that I can get the next instruction. So my next default instruction says specify base points. Base point is a point you want to lift the object from. Then specify second point. Second point is where you want to drop the object. So I've been able to move this arrow from point 1 to point 2. So let me do it again. I click on move, select object. I'm following my command line. I'm done selecting object. I press enter. Then specify base point, which is where I want to lift it from point 1. Then second point is where I'm taking it to, point 2. So by doing this, I'm able to move the object. Let me undo the process. Move again, select object, enter from point 1 to point 2. So that is move. I'm able to move an object from one position to another position. The next modifying tool is copy. You are going to use copy exactly the same way you have used move. Select objects, then press enter on your keyboard, specify base points, then where do you want to insert other copies. So with copy, you can make duplicates of the original objects. With copy, you can make duplicates of the original object. So the difference between using move and using copy is that move can only move the object from one place to the other, while copy, you can make duplicates of the objects. But the command instruction for both is the same. So I'll press Ctrl Z on my keyboard to undo. So move and copy. Now let's look at rotate. Rotate, select object, press enter, then specify base points. Base point is the pivot about which you want to rotate. Now, base point is the pivot about which you want to rotate. So I'll do that again. Specify rotate. I click on rotate, select object, then press enter. Then I'll specify the base point, which is the pivot. So you can pick anywhere on the object as your base point. Don't pick a point. You might not want to pick a point outside the object. You might not want, so that you are not choosing the base points in a wrong way. So you want to pick your base point to be on your object. You want to pick your base point to be on your object. So rotate again, select object, press enter on your keyboard to indicate end of selection, then specify base point. So depending on the pivot or the point about which you want to rotate, you can pick your base point. So then where do you want to drop it? So you can give this a try to understand the concept. The next tool we are going to be learning is trim. To use trim, you need to create an intersection. So I'm going to be using line to create my intersection. So I'll be using line. I'll be creating an intersection to the trim, to the arrow. With trim, what trim does is it remove excesses. Now, it removes excesses from the object of interest, excesses. Just like you have a piece of clothes and you have some fibers coming out from the clothes. You want to use your scissors to trim out the excesses from the boundary of the clothes. So that's how trim works. So now this arrow is the boundary of interest. Is my boundary of interest. So any object outside this arrow, I want to trim it off. So any object outside this arrow, outside the arrow I've drawn, I want to trim it off with trim. So to use trim, a very easy way to use trim without using the command line is click on trim, press enter on your keyboard, and selected the unwanted part of the object. Now, when you select this line, you will notice that this line is trimming off to this boundary. So just select the unwanted part of the object. By doing this, you see I'm able to trim off unwanted parts. So now what I'm left with is my boundary of interest, which is the arrow boundary. So I've been able to trim out excesses. Easily. Escape. So now I'm going to undo the process and apply trim once again. So just simple step, click on trim, press enter on your keyboard and select unwanted parts. I can use group selection to select unwanted parts. So by doing this, I'm able to trim off excesses. I'm going to repeat this for the third time. Click on trim, press enter on your keyboard, select unwanted part of your object. Select every unwanted part of your object. So if you are able to do this, then you'll be able to trim off your drawing. All right, with this knowledge, we can now go ahead and start working on our first exercise. So I'll delete this and I'll insert the exercise drawing to my AutoCAD. So I'll go to insert, attach, Okay, so I will insert my drawing and I adjust my zoom. So this is the first exercise for this session. So we're going to be working on this exercise. So now to do this exercise, I'm going to be using line. I'm going to start from the base. So our task is not to do this to dimension. So as you can observe, we don't have dimension. So this is a sketch drawing. And for this particular drawing, because we don't have a dimension, we are not so particular about accuracy. And we have not learned some tools. There are some tools we have not learned. So with more knowledge of tools, you can do this better. But based on the tools that we have learned so far, we want to be able to apply the tools in order to achieve this drawing. So accuracy, our focus is not on accuracy, but in understanding and applying the tools that we have learned so far. So now let's start with this drawing. I'm going to start from the base. I'll pick line. So I'm going to start from this corner, this left-hand corner. So I'll pick line. I want my line to be straight to the right. So I will use auto. So with auto, I'm able to constrain my line to be straight to the right. So, okay. All right, I'm going to stop at this point, or probably let me draw it to the end from here to here. So I'm going to draw it to this end. All right, I've been able to do that. I'll press enter on my keyboard or escape. I'll press escape on my keyboard to cancel the line. Then also, I want to draw a rectangle. Okay, I can say the rectangle is a bit down here. So I'm going to draw a rectangle for this area. I'm going to draw a rectangle. So let me put a rectangle. Let me go a bit down to draw my rectangle. Okay, just like the way we have it in the drawing. Now you can see, now I need to trim off this part. You need to trim off this part. So you can see there's nothing here. This line does not continue at this point. So I'm going to trim off this part. So we have length trim. So click on trim, press enter on your keyboard, then select. So I'm able to trim. So the next is I want to draw these two vertical lines. This line here, then to the end, I'm going to draw the same line. Or before I do that, let me draw this the roof here. The roof here. Let me draw it. So line. Okay. All right. Now, before we do that, let's quickly learn another drawing tool, another drawing aid called object snap. Now we have learned auto, which constrains our line vertically and horizontally. Now let's learn object snap. Object snap is also a very important drawing aid. So now this is object snap below here on the drawing aid, rectangular in shape. So there's an arrow beside it. So with the arrow, we can activate any of the options. By the way, object snap means helps you to pick a particular point accurately. I want to pick this point accurately, so I will need object snap. Object snap helps you to pick a point accurately. Without object snap, I'll be doing it visually and I might be picking a wrong point. But with object snap activated, I can pick my point accurately. But you need to be sure that you're activating the right point. So I'm going to activate intersection option, endpoint option. These two options, let me remove tangents. I don't need tangents. So intersection option, endpoint option. So I'm going to activate these two options to achieve my results. Then I will make sure that my object snap drawing aid is active. So by doing this now, I'll go back to line. Now with my object snap active, I can locate the endpoint of this rectangle. This corner here, I can locate it accurately. So once you see this sign, that tells me that I'm able to locate that point accurately. Now, one mistake beginners make is to activate their object snap all through their drawing. Sometimes this can make you to make mistake. So once you are done using your object snap, be sure to put it off. Once you are done using it to achieve its task, which is to locate the endpoints, be sure to put it off. Then I still need my auto. All right. Now I want to draw an inclined line. I don't need auto again. So you can see how I've been navigating using auto and taking auto off. Okay, at this point I want all right. Okay, I draw this line. I need my object snap to pick this point once again. So I'll click on object snap, and don't forget, once you are done using it, put it off. Now I need my auto. Okay, so trim, enter. Okay, so as we said, we are not particular about accuracy. So now you see that this is protruding more than this. So because we're not particular about accuracy, so I might not mind that. But if I want to adjust it, I just want to make my drawing look neat, and I just want to adjust it, even though we are not concerned about accuracy. Okay, so I kind of adjust my drawing to make it look proportional. All right, so one other thing, yes, I need to talk about is proportion. So even though you are sketching, be sure you are sketching to the right proportion. Proportion is important when you are sketching. Now, next, I'm going to now draw this window. Window, you can see rectangle. You can see I have a big rectangle, then I have four smaller rectangles. Then I also have a rectangle here. So I'm going to achieve that. I'm going to try and achieve that here now. So let me draw the big rectangle. So always consider proportion when you are sketching. Okay. Then I have four smaller rectangles. Rectangle again. Now let me off my object snap. I can see. Okay. Four smaller rectangles. So I'm going to use, okay, let me just draw them. Or shall I copy? We have looked at copy. So now you want to copy on a straight line. You can use your auto to copy on a straight line. Okay. All right. I've copied. Now I'm going to use move to adjust the two. Okay. Copy again. Now, because my auto is activated, my copy movement can only be vertically and horizontally. So auto helps to constrain my movement vertically and horizontally while I'm copying. Okay, all right, this is good. Then I'll draw rectangle below it. Okay, so this looks good for me. So now you can see I have two copies of the window here. So I'll make a copy of this window, enter, then select base points. Now my auto is active, which will enable me to copy on a straight line. Okay, all right, I've been able to do that. So next is the door. So the same approach, rectangle and smaller rectangles. Okay. Okay, I want to give my door more spacing. So let me move this a little bit. Select this, move it a little bit, then let me expand my door a little bit. Okay. All right. Now the smaller rectangles. Okay. Copy it from here. Okay. Okay, let me use move to give it a balance so that the spacing is approximately equal. Then copy again. So I'll make two other copies downwards. All right, so this looks good for me. This looks good for me. Then I'm going to try and draw this. I'm going to try and draw this. Okay. Let me study the way that's okay. All right, I think I understand what's there now. So we have a small rectangle. Then we have a line. Object snap. Remove auto on object snap. Connecting this to this. Connecting this to this. Okay, then I have another rectangle, then a line connecting this to this, another line connecting this to this. Okay, so I think there is a step. So that's what we have done here. All right, so now we have this completely done. So I'm going to continue with the drawing. So I'm going to move to this side of the drawing and continue. I need a straight line. Okay, now I told you when you are working, always make sure that you off your object snap when you don't need it. Sometimes it can make you to make mistake. So if you don't need it, always put it off. All right, then trim, enter, rectangle. Okay, let me trim, let me adjust my rectangle. I'm not particular about accuracy though, but I want it to be as neat as possible. Okay, so line, start from here to double this. Okay, all right, line. Now I need to pick these points. So I on my object snap to enable me pick the points, extend a little bit off my auto. I'm trying to draw now off these two. I'm trying to draw the roof here. So now I need auto. Okay, let me make it. I'm not particular about accuracy, so I'm just going to pick that point. Okay, I have a rectangle here. So let me draw this like the garage. The garage with windows. So rectangle, line. So 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to make 3 copies of the line. Copies of the line. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't have to be evenly distributed. So trim, enter. Okay, so this is the garage and with the windows. Then now I'm going to focus now on my left hand side. So let me extend this line a little bit. I'm going to focus on the left hand side. Then before we draw the upper parts for the left hand side, so I can see a rectangle below. So rectangle, object snap from here. Okay, then okay, this is a column. So rectangle, column off object snap. Put off the object snap so that I can pick this point. It doesn't have to be accurate, as I said. Accuracy is not a major concern for now. Okay, then line, object snap, off auto, so I can make it a line, then straight line. So anytime I need a straight line, I'll use auto. So I want this to be on the same line, so I'm going to extend this. Okay, I'm going to extend it. Then I'll trim off, trim, enter. I'll trim off this. Okay, then I'll trim off this too. Okay, so I did that because I want this to be on the same level. All right, so that's good. That's good. I might want to adjust the position of this. So let me put this down a little bit. Then I'm going to redraw. Should I redraw? Oh no, I withdraw this line, object snap. Okay, then I will extend this. Select and extend. Then trim. So I made some adjustment to the drawing over there so that I can have my drawing to be neat. Object snap, auto. Let me off my drawing head. Then trim, enter, trim off. Okay, so I'm trying to draw this right hand side. Then now I can see I have a rectangle for window. Rectangle, I have a rectangle I'm trying to draw over there. Rectangle, then another rectangle. Okay, should I make it another rectangle or okay. Yes. Then copy to make it 4. Then copy. So you can see how I'm using the blue selection. You can see how I'm using the blue selection. Okay, escape. So I'm going to adjust this rectangle. I'm going to bring it closer. Escape. All right. Okay, so I'm able to draw the window. Then I can see there's another column here. So I'll use line to achieve that. Line. Mm, I'm going to use line to achieve that. Line vertically. So I will trim it to make it look a bit accurate. Trim, enter. Trim off this. Trim off this. Then I will copy it to double it. Copy on a straight line. Auto is on. Then I will trim off. Trim, enter. Okay, good. So you can see just like how we have it over here. Okay, I can see there's a double line here. So line, let me just make this double. Okay. Okay. So all is looking good so far. So let me do a little trim here. Let me do a little trim here. All right. So this is just a sketch. It doesn't have to be accurate, but I'm just trying to make it as neat as possible. All right. I'm trying to make it as neat as possible. Okay. All right. So I think let me do some few lines over here. Mm, okay. I move auto straight line. All right. Then from this point, another line. From this point, another line that goes up. So this time I don't need object snap. So let me trim. So you always need trim to remove some excesses. When you are drawing your line, you need trim to remove some excess points, some excess extension of the line. All right, escape on my keyboard. Okay, so now what I've achieved, I've been able to draw the ground floor of the building. So using the same idea, you can go ahead and draw the upper floor of the building. Using the same concept, just go ahead and draw the upper floor of the building. So now let's quickly try and draw the upper floor. So object snap. I will put off my auto mode so that I can draw an inclined line. Okay. Okay, let me just make it extend. Then another line. Now I need auto again. Okay, I'll put off my my object snap. Now I'll make it on my trim. Click on trim, enter, then select these two lines to trim it off. Okay, so I'll use line again to pick this point accurately, object snap. Then I'll put it off. So I'm trying to draw the facial board. So off auto. Object snap. Snap to this point. Escape. All right. Well, it's just a sketch. It doesn't have to look perfect. Just a sketch. Rectangle. So now I'm trying to draw this window. So draw a rectangle. Let me off my drawing aid. As I said, it's always good you put off your drawing aid when you don't need it, so that it doesn't allow you to make mistake. So now I want to draw this triangle. Okay. Mode. Okay. All right. I'll just leave it like this. Then rectangle. All right. So I can see I have some few triangles inside there. So I'll try and draw mine. You might want to zoom this region so that you can see what's there properly. So zooming this, I can see that I need to trim off this part. Okay, so let me draw another. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on, okay, drawing four rectangles, and I'll make a copy. So I'm making four copies. Another copy. Then copy. Now copy the entire rectangle. Okay, good. Right, so I've been able to draw the window. So next, I'll move to the right. I'll move to the right to finish up the drawing. So line, okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then line again. From this point, I want to pick this point. I'll use object snap. Move to the right. Now off this, put off this, so I can have incline. Then I'm going to take this straight to the hand. Straight to the hand. Okay. Then put off. Okay, make that slant. Okay, so because I want this line, okay, all right. So um auto, then I'm going to make some trim, enter, select this, select this, select this. Right, then trim off this too. Okay, all right, good, looking good. Now I can see there is a little line. This place is double line over here. So I'll use line to double that place. So trim, enter, select this, select this, select this. Let me zoom here. Let me zoom. So zoom, then I trim. Okay, all right, it's making sense. So I'll try and finish up here with line. So line, okay. I'm going to draw another line. I'm going to draw another line. So I'm going to draw another line. Okay. Then I'm now on this area. So I'm going to try and draw the railing. There's a railing here. Okay, but before I do that, let me trim off this unnecessary. So now I want to work on the railing. Okay, using rectangle. Then, okay, 3 small rectangles. So, and I want to zoom this region out so I can get details on what is over there. So I'm going to zoom here out. Okay, so zooming it out, I can see I might need to adjust this. Okay, so rectangle, 3 rectangles serving as my railing. So I can decide to draw one, then make copies of it. Movement is on horizontal. So this is done. It looks good. So now I will zoom down back. I want to trim off this region. Take off this. Okay. All right. So now my zoom in. Okay, looking good, looking good, looking good. Let me make a copy of this line. Let me make a copy of these 2 lines. All right. Now, looking good. Looking good. So the final step to complete this drawing is to draw this window. So I'll focus on drawing this window over here. Then I'll make a copy of this window for this. Then the window, after drawing this, I'll copy it for this. So that will be the end of this exercise. So to do that, I click on copy, draw rectangle. Then I'm going to draw another smaller rectangle. I'm going to draw another rectangle, then make copies of it. Okay. Then make copies of these 2. Copy it downwards. All right, so I've done this window. So I'm going to copy this window over here. So click on copy and select the entire window. Then copy it. So now while copying it, I might want to put off auto so that I can change it doesn't have to be on the same horizontal line. Okay. All right. So I observe that this roof has double lines. I'm going to double. I need auto to be on. Then the same thing for this side. Okay. I need auto to be on. Now I'll trim. Okay. With this, I am able to sketch out the building. With this, I'm able to sketch out the building. So this has been a good job so far. This is a good job so far. So the idea of this drawing is to be able to use the tool, to be able to apply the tools that we have learned so far. We have used line, we have used rectangle, we have learned how to use trim, we have learned how to use copy, we have used move, we have used our auto, we have used our object snap. So with this exercise, we're able to apply the tools that we have learned so far. So this drawing does not, is not particular to architects or civil engineers, but anybody can practice this drawing just to get used to your tools. So the idea of this drawing is to enable you to get your tools. I'm sure you might have learnt one or two things on AutoCAD, and this one other important one other importance of this exercise is it's going to boost your confidence. It's going to boost your confidence on using your tools. So I hope you have learned one or two things. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to get more interesting videos on AutoCAD. Share this video with your friends, like it, add your comment if you have questions. I'll be willing to answer your questions. So see you in other videos. Thank you.